So, in this chapter, he starts out talking about the money and being confused about how much things are worth. Because, you know, when you pay something with money, you're used to thinking in dollars. And so something is $5. So a hamburger is $5 or $10. And a apple is $1 or a banana is 50 cents. And so you think about things in that term. Now, there's a whole bunch of different monies all over the planet, and they trade at various different rates. So you have in Europe, they use something called the euro, and the euro is about $1. Sometimes it's a little more, sometimes it's a little less. But if you're in Europe and you see something that's €5, that's about $5. Now, if you had, before they went to the euro, Italy used something called the lira. And because of various different things that happened with the wars, with the World War One, World War Two, and other things that happened later with their economy, 1,000 lira was about $1. So if you were to go to Italy 30 years ago and you see something that was priced at 5,000 lira, well, that's $5. That's a hamburger. So you'd see something that's 5,000 lira. A similar thing happened with the ruble. The ruble was 200 rubles to the dollar. Right now, there's issues over in Russia, and I'm not sure what the ruble is trading at. And all of these things vary day by day. And so the yen is currently used in Japan, and the yen is about 100 yen to the dollar, give or take. It may be 80 now, it may be 120. Once again, I don't look at these things, but the number I have fixed in my mind for the yen is about 100 to $1. So it's kind of close to that. Peso is similar. Peso is what they use in Mexico, and a peso is about the same as a yen. Once again, it varies because is Mexico's economy doing well? Is Japan's economy doing well? Is the US economy doing? All of these things change. Now, he's coming out with new money because he isn't happy with the way the old money is. And he's denominating it like the US, which makes a lot of sense because up until the 1960s, I think, British money was really kind of weird because there weren't 100 pennies to the pound. They had shillings, and shillings were 20 I can't remember. It was this weird number. And then there was an odd number of shillings to the pound. And so you had these things. It's like, okay, how much is this? How much is that? And then they decided, this is silly. We're just going to do like everyone else, break our money up into 100 pieces. I think it was 6 and I don't remember. I'll put it in the comments down below. I'll look it up, put it in the comments. But that was actually part of Harry Potter. Harry Potter, where they did the nickel nuts and sickles and galleons, that was actually social commentary. That was actually a parody. That was J.K. Rowling being funny, and people were like, Hagrid was like, "Oh, I can't deal with this Muggle money. It doesn't make any sense." And the nickel nuts and sickles and galleons were all prime number multiples of each other. So one was 13 times the other, and another one was 17 times. And so it's just like, here you're multiplying these two prime numbers together, and you have all of these weird things. It's never going to come out even. But so that was actually a parody. So there was a lot of there was some of that stuff going on in Harry Potter that a lot of people, a lot of Americans don't realize that, oh, this is a joke. And I imagine that the younger British citizens, oh, this is 6 shillings for, it's so many shillings, so many pence. It's like, it's not the sort of thing that you would think of because, once everyone goes to the decimated money that divided up into hundreds and tenths. So here he is, he's reforming the money. He's making new money. Now, you have to be careful when you make new money, because there are all sorts of times where the governments decided to, okay, we're just going to put a whole bunch of money out there because they needed money to pay for things. And so it's like the Romans, this is a lot of what killed off the Roman Empire. Because when a new Roman emperor came on, he would have to pay the army to be loyal to him. So what the Roman emperors did, and there was like a dozen of them who did this, was is like, okay, we're going to print tons of new money. Literal tons of money. And back then, the money was made out of silver. But the problem is that they didn't have all the silver to make all the money. So what they did was they took the silver and they mixed it with copper, because copper was cheaper. So they made this money and they put it out there. And it's like, this is the new Roman denarius. This is now the same as the old one. Though the new one only has half as much silver as the old one did. So they rounded up all the old ones. They melted them down. They mixed in copper. And all of a sudden they doubled their money. Well, the people were wise to this. And they're like, that's not the same as this. And you're telling me it's worth the same. And the government was like, yes. And so what people would do is they would hoard the old coins and then melt them down and things like that. And they would start doubling the prices. So what they would do is they would double the prices. It's like, oh yeah, you're paying double the price. This happened in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was infamous for this back in the 90s, where they were like, okay, we're going to print more money. And the government was like, we need more money, so we're going to print more money. It actually happened that their inflation slowed down because they ran out of ink to print money with. So, I mean, just imagine that things got better when you ran out of ink to print money. And the government never quite grasped that you can't just print money to solve these problems. Next, he came up against the Knights. Or he was smoking his pipe, and everyone was like panicked by this because, smoking a pipe wasn't something that was done. Now, I'm not sure what he was smoking in the pipe, local herbs or whatever, but it definitely wasn't tobacco, because tobacco was only indigenous to North America. And you can grow it in Europe, but there wasn't any for anyone to grow. So he was smoking something. We'll leave it to the imagination of the reader for what he was smoking, but he was smoking something, and everyone was like astonished by this. Though I think pipes had been around long before then, so I mean, making a clay pipe is not hard technology. You take clay, you mold it, you put it into roughly this right shape, and just put a long straight stick through it, and you put a long straight stick through the stem, and all of a sudden you have a pipe. So making a pipe is not hard. I don't know when pipes were invented, but it's not hard technology. But anyway, everyone was astonished by this. It was like, ooh, fancy guy smoking. And so when he went up against the Knights, he blew out the smoke and they panicked. And they're like, we give. And Sandy went to negotiate, and she's like, okay, you're going to report to Camelot. You're going to be his knights. He's the boss. And you're going to report to Camelot, and he's in charge. And they're like, okay. Now, this is very Sun Tzu. There was a great Chinese general, Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War. And one of the big principles in the art of war is trying to avoid fighting as much as possible. Because Sun Tzu's theory was that if you fight, you can lose. If you get the other guy to give up without fighting, you always win. And so a lot of Sun Tzu's philosophy was getting people to surrender without actually fighting. So you go and you surround them, and you're like, okay, we have you surrounded. If you give up now, we just take your stuff. If you want to fight, we'll kill you. And so the people who are surrounded are like, okay, we'll give up. We'll give you our stuff. We'll back off. We'll stop the war. We'll give you land. We'll give you whatever. Just don't kill us. So, and it was also about attacking things strategically. So Sun Tzu's first thing was you attack their plans. So if they're trying to surround you, you surround them, or you don't be where they think they are. And then you attack their allies. Now, attacking their allies isn't necessarily literally attacking their allies, because sometimes allies are like, okay, I'll pay you to fight for me. Well, you can attack that plan by saying, hey, I'll pay you more to fight for me. And then all of a sudden, the odds go from 2 to 1 to 1 to 2, and it's like, win. And then you attack the army, and then you attack the cities. And Sun Tzu was like, you never attack a city, because that's just long, drawn-out siege warfare, and nobody wins with that. But so here we have printing money. We have smoke and scaring people, and we have Sun Tzu. So that is chapter 14.